All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video after the draft. Check out Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, the draft typically signifies the end of the offseason. There'll be some additional signings. There always are, late in the, in the late spring, early summer. There'll even be a couple signings going into camp. So teams will add players and sometimes significant players between now and training camp. It's not like nobody's ever of significance has ever been added, in May, June, or July. Many players have come in late, but for the most part, the draft signifies the end of the offseason. You had your free agent signings, followed it up with the draft, and then the undrafted free agents that are signed after the draft. And you got a pretty good handle on what you've added to your football team. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what is the most underrated pickup of the offseason. And there have been a number of underrated pickups, to be honest. I thought Joey Fisher, the undrafted free agent offensive lineman out of Shepherd, was a really under the radar, addition for sure. I thought John Feliciano, the veteran guard / center who played last year with the New York Giants, very underrated pickup because he can play both spots and he's just a really solid football player. Robert Beal, the edge rusher from Georgia, runs 4.4. Very underrated pickup. Jalen Graham, who Scott McLuhan is a huge fan of the Niners' former GM. I think that's an underrated pickup. There have been several. Deshaun Jameson is a cornerback return guy who played at Texas, who the Niners got as an undrafted free agent. I think he's a steal. Spencer Wagee, who we talked to last week, who has an incredible get-off at 300 pounds, can play defensive end or defensive tackle. He is an underrated pickup. So there have been a number of underrated pickups for the 49ers for sure. Obviously, the one that got the biggest headlines was Javon Hargrave. He got the money. He's got the big time, pedigree. Javon Hargrave is a phenomenal pickup, but not underrated, not under the radar. But to me, if you really look at what the 49ers did, Jake Moody may have been an underrated pickup to draft your future kicker in the late third round. That may have been an underrated pickup if Moody becomes the kind of kicker the Niners hope he becomes. But I'm going to go with Isaiah Oliver, the free agent signed away from the Atlanta Falcons. And to me, one of the most important positions on the football field that we don't talk very much about is the nickel corner. Your nickel corner plays more than your third linebacker. There's a reason that Azeez Al-Shaair was allowed to walk away in free agency. It's because your nickel linebacker or your nickel corner is on the field 70% of the time, sometimes 75% of the time. And your third linebacker is on the field 25% of the time. So you can't really justify or couldn't really justify paying Azeez Al-Shaair big bucks when he's only playing 25% of the plays at most. But Isaiah Oliver is going to be an absolute key guy for the 49ers. And he's got a great story. He went to Colorado. He's from Goodyear, Arizona, came out after his junior year. He's a good-sized corner, 6 feet, 200 pounds, 33.5-inch arms, ran 4.5 with a 1.55 10-yard split. So not a burner, but clearly athletic and fast. His father, Muhammad, played cornerback at Oregon and was an NCAA All-American in track and field. He was a world-class decathlete and even played 5 seasons in the NFL. So a very athletic family. His uncle, Damon Mays, also played college ball. He played wide receiver at Missouri and in the NFL briefly. And the scouts loved Isaiah coming out of Colorado because he had great size and he was very, very tenacious and he had great genes. And he was a productive player at Colorado. So finished there. He's first played behind Akello Witherspoon, who was a 2017 draft choice. But then Oliver became a star in his own right. In his junior year, he became first-team All-Pac-12. He had 27 tackles, a couple picks, 13 pass breakups, and he missed time even that year with a leg injury, so it was even more impressive than that. He also participated on Colorado's track team as a freshman. finished 7th in the Pac-12 meet as a decathlete. So he's a great combination of size, speed, and length, and those traits are coveted by NFL GMs all the time. There were some coverage holes in his game, and they tried him outside in Atlanta, and he was good play, bad play, good game, bad game, very inconsistent. But he was always thought to have incredible talent that if you could coach him up and give him some technique, and that he would have a real high ceiling as a bump and run corner, as a lockdown guy. And if you look at his profile, great size, great speed. He looks like an NFL corner. And then you mix in the fact that he was a decathlete, and he's an explosive leaper. This guy has several very aggressive player, soft hands. He makes interceptions, but he needed some work. He definitely needed some work. He was a little too tall in his back pedal. He definitely needed work on his transitions, definitely needed work on his footwork and his ability to mirror up and down the field. He definitely needed to be a little bit more consistent when he plants and redirects quickly on change of direction. He really needed to get in his film, not bite as much on play fakes, not bite as much on first moves in a double move situation. But now, after a few years in the NFL, he's found his calling to play inside on the slot, and he's coming off a terrific year with the Falcons. So I think this is a great get by the 49ers. I mean, that nickel cornerback spot is huge, and their secondary right now on paper, their starting secondary would be Charvarius Mooney-Ward at right corner, Diamador Lenore probably at the left corner, Hufanga at strong safety, Tayshaun Gibson at free safety, Jair Brown looming as a potential starter at either spot, and then Isaiah Oliver to be the starter at nickel corner. And I think he's going to give the Niners exactly what they're looking for. A legit corner with size, experience. He can handle the two-way break. He's a veteran now. He's a far better player today than he was coming out of Colorado. He's coming off of his best NFL season. The 49ers are about to get the best football that Isaiah Oliver has ever played. And to me, that makes him the underrated signing of the offseason. You say, of all the signings, of all the new players that the Niners added, who's going to start for them this year? And I like Cam Latu, but he's not starting at Latu. He's not starting over George Kittle. I think Joey Fisher's a nice player, but he's not starting over Colton McKivitz. None of these backs that they added, Ronald Awalt, Kalen Laburn, they're not starting over Christian McCaffrey. I love Spencer Wagee, but he's probably not starting. Robert Beal, the same. He's probably not starting. D. Winters, I think, is really high end. He could start, but I don't think he is. I think it's going to take some time for him to adapt. The two guys that potentially could start, Darrell Luter Jr. could beat out Diamador Lenore for that starting job at left corner. It's possible. But the guy who I think undoubtedly, outside of Jake Moody, the guy who's lined up to start of the new players that they acquired is Isaiah Oliver, who will battle Miles Hartsfield, who comes over from Carolina, who knows the defense. But Oliver's the starter at nickelback, and I think he's going to be a nice upgrade for the 49ers. Now, is he going to be an upgrade from Jimmy Ward, from K'Wan Williams? I think he's going to be an upgrade as a cover guy from Jimmy Ward and K'Wan. I don't know that he's going to be quite as good against the run as those guys were. Those guys were outstanding run defenders. But I think Isaiah Oliver potentially has that skill and that talent to be an upgrade from Jimmy Ward or K'Wan Williams as a cover guy. And adding a really nice nickel cover guy who can play the slot is absolutely invaluable. So, most underrated pickup of the offseason. Here's one vote for Isaiah Oliver, the 49ers' new defensive back. Look for him to start at the nickel and play exceptionally well. All right, hope you enjoyed our 49er video. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueger Show on YouTube.